"Don't touch me there," she cried. The mountain man growled, "Then I'll hold you here." She collapsed in the dust like a sack of old bones thrown from a wagon. No cry. No moan. Just the slow, ragged suck of air through cracked lips, and the whisper of wind dragging red sand over her bare ankles. Behind her, the trail of blood was thin as thread, fading beneath hoofprints and the ghost of smoke. Her dress, once blue, was now the color of dried earth and rust. One sleeve hung torn, revealing a forearm stitched with scars, not from rope or whip, but from something deeper. Something she'd done to herself. From the ridge above, he watched. He didn't move. Didn't breathe hard. Just let his rifle rest across his knees, barrel cold against his palm, eyes fixed on the shape in the dirt. 5 years since he'd seen a woman this broken. 5 years since he'd last heard that name, Eleanor, murmured by the wind after a storm. Now it came again. Her voice was too weak for prayer. Too hollow for song. But when she breathed out one last time before passing out, she said it. Eleanor, his chest tightened like a noose pulled by memory. He knew that name. He'd buried her under a cottonwood tree 300 miles east, where the river ran silver in the moonlight. He'd carved her initials into the bark. Left her shawl draped over the stone. And then he walked west until the world forgot his face. But here she was. Not Eleanor. Not even close. This woman's hair was darker. Her hands were calloused, not soft. Her eyes, when they fluttered open just enough to catch the sun, were empty. Not mad. Not scared. Just, gone. The mountain man stood. His boots kicked up dust as he descended. The wind howled low through the rocks, like a dog mourning its master. He knelt beside her. Took her wrist. Felt the pulse, weak, erratic, but there. He didn't ask who she was. Didn't ask what happened to the wagon. Didn't care if she'd killed someone. All he saw was the way her fingers curled inward, as if holding something invisible. And for the first time since the fever took his wife, he felt something crack inside him. Not grief. Something worse. Hope. He lifted her. Her body was light. Too light. Like a child's doll made of bone and ash. He carried her toward his cabin, the wind tugging at his coat, the sun sinking behind the mesas like a dying ember. Behind them, the wind rolled over the burned wagon. And somewhere, deep in the silence, a coyote began to sing. It wasn't a howl. It was a lullaby. And he knew, somewhere beyond death, beyond guilt, beyond the dust, they were listening. The fire in the hearth had died to embers when he laid her down. He poured water into a tin cup. Dripped it onto her tongue. She swallowed. Once. Twice. Then her eyes opened. Full. Clear. And fixed on the wall. There, hanging crooked from a nail, still smelling faintly of lavender and sweat, his wife's shawl. He didn't move. Didn't speak. But in the quiet, between the crackle of cooling coals and the distant whistle of a lone owl, he heard it. A breath. Not hers. His wife's. Or maybe just the wind. Either way, it stayed. And for the first time since the desert swallowed her soul, he didn't turn away. She woke with a knife pressed to his throat. Not sharp enough to break skin. But close. His eyes opened slowly. Morning light bled through the cracks in the cabin walls. Dust motes danced like spirits above the hearth. Outside, the wind had dropped. The world held its breath. Her fingers trembled. Not from fear. From hunger. From pain. From something older. He didn't flinch. Didn't reach for his own weapon. Just stared at her, the hollows beneath her eyes, the bruises blooming purple along her collarbone, the way her hair clung to her neck like wet rope. "You're not her," he said. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Then, softly, I know. He exhaled. Slow. Deliberate. The blade dipped an inch. She didn't lower it. He rose. Walked to the door. Opened it. Let the cold in. I'm not going to touch you, he said. Not unless you ask. He stepped outside. Closed the door. Left her alone with the knife. And the shawl. Hours passed. He chopped wood. Fed the horses. Checked the traps. When he returned, the knife was gone. She sat by the fire, wrapped in his blanket, staring into the ashes. On the table, the venison untouched. Beside it, a small loaf of bread. He hadn't baked bread in 5 years. He picked it up. Broken off a piece. Put it in his mouth. It tasted like ash. And sorrow. And something else. Something warm. She didn't look at him. But when he sat down, she shifted. Just slightly. So her shoulder brushed his. He didn't move away. She didn't pull back. They sat like that until dusk. Until the fire turned orange. Until the wind started singing again. And then, she whispered. I dreamed of her last night. He didn't answer. But his hand found hers. Without thinking. Without asking. She didn't pull away. And for the first time since the world broke, she didn't flinch. They came at sundown. 6 men. 3 horses. 2 dogs. 1 preacher trailing behind, clutching a Bible like a shield. Their boots crunched on gravel outside the cabin. Voices loud. Arrogant. Full of God and gunpowder. Woman inside, shouted the lead rider, spurring his horse forward. We know what you did. The mountain man stood in the doorway, rifle across his arms. Silent. Still. Eyes like flint. She stole our horses, another growled. Burned old man Harlow's barn. Killed his boy. She's got the devil's mark, the preacher added, voice trembling with holy rage. I seen it myself. On her shoulder. A serpent coiled round a cross. He didn't blink. Didn't move. Inside, she sat by the window, silent. Watching them. One of the riders dismounted. Kicked the door. It didn't budge. Open up, damn you, he yelled. Stillness. Then, the mountain man stepped aside. Opened the door. She walked out. Barefoot. In her shift. Snow had begun to fall. Soft. Quiet. Like feathers from heaven's pillow. The men fell silent. Even the dogs stopped barking. She walked straight to the center of the clearing. Turned. Looked each of them in the eye. Then raised her arms. As if to be crucified. The preacher raised his Bible. Repent, harlot. Or be cast into the flames. He lit a torch. Threw it. At her feet. The flame caught the dry grass. Sizzled. Crawled. And then, stopped. Just, stopped. Where her shadow touched the ground. The fire didn't leap. Didn't spread. It curled back on itself like a snake biting its tail. The men staggered back. One crossed himself. Another vomited. The preacher dropped the torch. It landed in snow. Snuffed out. No smoke. No scent of burning. Only silence. And the falling snow. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just looked at them. With eyes that had seen too much. And then, she turned. Walked back inside. Closed the door. The mountain man followed. Locked it. Behind them, the men mounted up. No one spoke. No one dared. They rode away as the wind began to hum. Low. Sweet. Like a lullaby. Back inside, she sat by the fire, staring into the embers. He brought her a blanket. She didn't take it. But when he sat beside her, she leaned her head against his shoulder. Just once. Then pulled away. As if afraid. As if she didn't believe she deserved warmth. He didn't say anything. Just placed his hand on the floor beside her. Not touching. Just, there. Waiting. And for the first time since the world ended, she didn't push him away. She found it beneath the third floorboard. A tin can. Rusted shut. He'd forgotten it was there. Inside, 2 cups of wheat flour. A pinch of salt. A scrap of lard wrapped in wax paper. She didn't ask where it came from. Didn't thank him. Just sat on the floor. Poured the flour into a wooden bowl. Added water from the canteen. Kneaded. With blistered fingers. With shaking hands. With the rhythm of a mother rocking a dead child. He watched from the doorway. Memories flooded him. Eleanor. Same bowl. Same motions. Same quiet hum beneath her breath. She sang then, too. Not words. Just sounds. Notes. Like wind through canyon stones. He remembered how she used to say, bread remembers what the heart forgets. Now she was baking with ash. Because there was no yeast. No sugar. No butter. Just grit. And memory. And the smell. Oh God, the smell. It filled the cabin. Warm. Sweet. Alive. He sank to his knees. Outside, the wind died. The stars blinked awake. She pulled the loaf from the oven. Blackened on the bottom. Pale and raw in the middle. She broke it in half. Held out a piece to him. He took it. Didn't speak. Didn't pray. Just bit into it. It tasted like dust. Like blood. Like the last day he kissed his wife goodbye. And then, he cried. Not loud. Not sobbing. Just tears. Falling slow. Into the bread. She watched. Didn't offer comfort. Didn't reach for him. But when he finished eating, she broke off a second piece. Placed it gently on the windowsill. For the wind. For the ghosts. For whoever might be listening. He didn't ask why. He already knew. Some things aren't meant for the living. They're meant for the ones who never got to eat. Later, she washed the bowl. Dried it. Put it back on the shelf. Then climbed into bed. Curled into herself. He lay awake. Listening. To her breathing. To the silence. To the echo of a woman who had lost everything. And still chose to feed the world. Even if only with ash. And bread. And silence. The river spat him out at dawn. Half buried in silt. His uniform gray with rot. His face swollen, unrecognizable. But the letter, sealed tight in a leather pouch tied to his belt, was dry. She pulled it free. Unfolded it. The ink had faded. But the words remained. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, I didn't make it home. They said the battle was won. But all I saw was smoke. And your face. I keep it with me. Even now. Even here. If you ever find this, don't come looking. Don't grieve. Live. For both of us. I love you. Always. Jacob, her hands shook. Not from cold. From recognition. She knew that script. Knew the slant of the Y. Knew the way the D curled like a question mark. It was hers. She wrote it. 5 years ago. Before the fever. Before the baby. Before the war took everything. But Jacob? She never met a Jacob. She never married. Never loved. She was a farm girl from Tennessee. She had a brother. He died in the war. She buried him. And then she buried herself. So how, she whispered. The mountain man stood behind her. Didn't touch. Didn't ask. Just watched the letter tremble in her fingers. She looked up. Eyes glassy. Voice broken. He's lying, she said. He nodded. Then he took the letter. Lit a match. Watched the flame creep along the edge. Watched the ink bleed. Watched the names burn. When it was ash, he scattered it into the wind. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just whispered, they told me he came back. He looked at her. Then answered, quiet as a grave, some lies are easier to live than the truth. She didn't move. Just stared at the ashes. Floating. Disappearing. Like a ghost finally letting go. He didn't say more. Didn't offer comfort. Didn't lie. He just reached out. And took her hand. Cold. Dry. Alive. She didn't pull away. And for the first time, she didn't try to forget. They came at first light. 14 of them. Mustangs. Wild. Untamed. They circled the cabin like a prayer circle. No rider. No reins. Just hooves on frozen earth. He'd spent years trying to break them. To tame them. To ride them. They fled every time he drew near. But now. They stood. Watching. Waiting. And then, she stepped outside. Barefoot. In her shift. No shoes. No coat. Just skin and silence. The lead stallion lowered his head. Snorted. Steam curling from his nostrils. And then, the bay mare stepped forward. White star bright as a moonbeam on her forehead. She walked right up. Nuzzled the woman's palm. Gently. Like she'd known her forever. Like she'd been waiting. She didn't flinch. Didn't cry. Just placed her forehead against the mare's. Breathed. And whispered, I remember you. The mountain man stood frozen in the doorway. He'd seen those horses before. 10 years ago. Before the war. Before the fever. Before his wife died. He'd found them grazing near the spring. She used to come out at dusk. Whisper to them. Sing to them. Say they were the last good thing left in the world. He thought she'd imagined them. Thought the grief had twisted her mind. But now, they remembered. The mare nudged her again. Then turned. Walked 10 paces. Stopped. Looked back. As if saying, come. She glanced at him. No words. Just eyes. Questioning. Waiting. He didn't stop her. Didn't beg. Didn't plead. He walked to the stable. Saddled the other mare. Tied her reins to hers. Then handed her the bridle. She took it. Slipped it over the bay's head. Climbed on. No stirrups. No saddle pads. Just skin and sinew and will. She looked down at him. Smiled. Not wide. Not happy. But real. For the first time. Then she kicked the mare gently. And they rode away. Into the valley. Where the snow glowed gold in sunrise. He stood there. Alone. Watching. Until they vanished. And for the first time, he didn't feel lost. He felt chosen. He came at midnight. Preacher. Bible in one hand. Pistol in the other. Knocked 3 times. Hard. Like he owned the land. The mountain man didn't answer. Inside, she slept. Deep. Quiet. Like the dead who finally rested. He opened the door. The preacher stood there, haloed by moonlight. His robe was frayed. His eyes wild. "You're harboring evil," he said. "I've seen the signs. The horses. The fire. The way the wind sings her name." The mountain man didn't move. Just stepped aside. "Let him in." The preacher marched to the bedroom door. Raised his Bible. "Repent, daughter of darkness. Let the Lord cleanse you." He slammed his fist against the wood. "Open the door, woman." Silence. Then, a whisper. Not from within. From the rafters. From the chimney. From the trees. A lullaby. Soft. Old. Familiar. The same one Eleanor used to sing. The preacher froze. His hand trembled. He raised the pistol. Pointed it at the door. "I'll burn the devil out of you." He pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. He pulled again. Click. Again. Click. The bullet wasn't in the chamber. He spun around. Furious. Who? He didn't finish. Because the window shattered. Not from a bullet. From a stone. Small. Round. Smooth. It flew through the glass. Hit the preacher square in the temple. He dropped. Like a sack of grain. No cry. No gasp. Just collapse. The mountain man stepped forward. Looked out. No child. No animal. No sign. Just the wind. And the lullaby. Still singing. He turned. Looked at the bedroom door. It opened. She stood there. In her shift. Hair loose. Eyes calm. No fear. No anger. Just peace. She walked past him. Knelt beside the preacher. Pressed her palm to his forehead. Then whispered, "I forgive you." The man stirred. Eyes fluttered. Opened. Saw her. Whispered, "Eleanor." She didn't correct him. Just smiled. Then stood. Walked back to bed. Closed the door. The mountain man picked up the stone. Smooth. Warm. Still humming with heat. He put it in his pocket. Then went outside. Sat on the porch. Listened. To the wind. To the silence. To the lullaby. And for the first time, he didn't hate God. He just wished he'd been kinder. He found them beneath his pillow. 3 pairs. Tiny. Delicate. Made of fox fur, stitched with sinew. Each sole marked with a single stitch. Like a heartbeat. He didn't ask. Didn't speak. Just held them. In his palm. Like relics. Like prayers. He remembered the midwife. The blood. The silence after the scream. The bundle wrapped in blue cloth. The doctor's voice, "We tried, sir." But the baby came too soon. Too weak. He'd buried the cloth in the garden. Didn't tell her. Didn't want her to see the grief. Didn't want her to carry it. But she remembered. Even when he didn't. Every night, she sang the same lullaby. Every morning, she whispered a name. Not Eleanor. Not Jacob. Something softer. Something sweeter. Lily. He didn't say it aloud. But he learned it. By heart. He started leaving meat on the windowsill. Venison. Rabbit. Even a fat squirrel he trapped. Always at dawn. Always where she could see. She never thanked him. Never acknowledged it. But one morning, he found a single shoe missing. The smallest one. And beside it, a note. Scrawled in charcoal. Thank you for remembering her. He didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just took the shoe. Put it in his coat. Wore it next to his heart. For 3 days. He didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just sat by the fire. Holding the shoe. Holding the silence. And for the first time since the world ended, he didn't run from the grief. He held it. Like a child. And whispered back, I'm sorry I forgot you. The wind answered. Not with sound. But with warmth. And the scent of lavender. Just like before. She left at dawn. No farewell. No note. Just her boots sitting by the door. Empty. Like shells. He found the bay mare's tracks leading west. Through snow. Through sage. Through the teeth of the Badlands. He followed. For 2 days. No food. No water. Just the trail. And the ache. He found her kneeling. Beside a shallow grave. No marker. No cross. Just a broken doll. Its porcelain face cracked. One button eye gone. The other staring at the sky. She was singing. Again. The lullaby. Soft. Broken. Like a bird with a broken wing. He didn't call out. Didn't step forward. Just stood. Behind her. Watching. Her shoulders shook. Not from cold. From grief. He walked slowly. Sat beside her. Didn't touch. Didn't speak. Just sat. And listened. To the wind. To the silence. To the song. After a long time, she whispered, I buried her here. He didn't ask why. Didn't ask how. Didn't ask if it was real. He just reached out. And took her hand. Cold. Dry. Alive. She didn't pull away. Just leaned. Into him. Just once. And then, she cried. Not loud. Not wild. Just slow. Like rain on a roof. Like the world finally breaking open. He didn't offer salvation. Didn't promise heaven. Didn't say it would get better. He just held her. As the snow fell. As the wind sang. As the ghost of a child slipped between them. And for the first time, she didn't fight it. She let herself be held. Winter came with teeth. Snow piled high. Wind screamed like a widow at the gate. The cabin groaned. The fire guttered. She couldn't stand. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Just lay on the pallet. Shivering. Eyes closed. Breath shallow. He fed her broth made from boiled roots. Held her when she shuddered. Sang the lullaby when she whimpered. She didn't open her eyes. Didn't speak. Just held his shirt. Like it was the last thing left in the world. He didn't pray. Didn't beg. Didn't promise healing. He just held her. Closer. Warmer. Longer. Until the fire died. Until the moon rose. Until the wind stilled. And she whispered, "I'm tired." He kissed her forehead. Not like a lover. Not like a savior. Like a man who'd lost everything. And found her anyway. "I know," he said. She turned. Looked at him. For the first time. Really looked. And whispered, "I didn't want to be saved." He didn't flinch. Didn't lie. Just said, "I'm not saving you." She blinked. Then why are you here?" He looked into her eyes. Past the scars. Past the grief. Past the ghosts. And saw her. Not Eleanor. Not a ghost. Not a burden. Just a woman. Broken. But breathing. And he said, "I'm here because you're here." She closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. He wiped them with his thumb. Then pulled her close. Wrapped his arms around her. Tucked her head under his chin. Held her like the world was ending. And she was the only thing worth holding. "I'll hold you here," he whispered. She didn't answer. Just sighed. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. She let herself be held. Not as a miracle. Not as a mystery. Not as a curse. But as a woman. Whole. Wounded. Worth keeping. And outside, the wind sang. The snow fell. And somewhere, far away, a bay mare nickered. And the lullaby kept playing. In the dark. In the cold. In the silence. And he held her. Until the dawn. Until the world remembered how to breathe. Until she remembered, she wasn't alone. And that was enough.